It's fair to say that Samantha's grand reveal at the end of the FIREBASE Easter egg was an incredible moment and lays the groundwork for an exciting new character arc with Samantha Maxis. But one of the biggest mysteries which has puzzled us ever since is her clothing, and how multiple parts of her clothing look identical to items worn by the PRIMIS crew. And in this video, we are going to be taking the deepest dive look yet at Samantha, because analyzing Samantha in the cutscene is not enough. We've got a full 360-degree model to work with here, and we're going to be diving straight in. We'll break this down into two sections. The first, looking directly at the items that are similar to PRIMIS, and then also looking at the brand new details most of you have not noticed yet. Now, in the trailer for FIREBASE, we see Samantha entering wearing a completely different outfit to what she wears coming out of the Dark Aether. So for context, everything she's wearing, she's acquired in the Dark Aether. Now, the most popular idea right now as to how she has all these items is that she came across the bodies of PRIMIS in the Dark Aether. In her struggles to survive in the Dark Aether, she used an item from each of the characters as a way to honor them, as their sacrifice is the sole reason why Samantha is still here today. However, I believe there's an even more exciting explanation why she has all this stuff, and we'll go into that in a little bit. So let's first begin by looking at the flying goggles that she's got on her head, and obviously straight away you'd compare that to Nikolai Belinsky's flying goggles from the PRIMIS crew. Here is a really up close look at these goggles, and you can see that they are very dirty. So it's safe to assume that she's made some good use out of these goggles, but if we compare them directly to Nikolai Belinsky's goggles, you can see that the design of these goggles are quite different. Material around Nikolai's goggles is almost like a suede leather, and the shape of Nikolai's goggles is a semicircle, while Samantha's are more fully circular. So whilst there is a huge resemblance, unfortunately they are not the same pair of goggles. Funnily enough, Nikolai wasn't the only PRIMIS crew member to have a pair of flying goggles. Takeo also had some which he wore around his neck, and comparing directly, unfortunately they also aren't the same. Now, there is no doubt in my mind that the goggles are a reference to Nikolai. She's sporting them above her forehead just like Nikolai did. Now, another massive PRIMIS reference is the katana she's now wielding on her back, which is obviously synonymous with Takeo Misaki, who would wield a katana at all times. Here is the katana on its own that's on her back, so we can directly compare it to Takeo's to see if it really is the same. As far as the texture on the hilt of the sword is concerned, it looks identical, the same grooved edges from top to bottom. The pommel also looks incredibly similar, although very hard to tell if it is the same. And the scabbard, which is the container that houses the sword, also shares the same circular dots on it as Takeo's does. But we still can't say with 100% certainty that this is exactly Takeo's sword. So much like with Nikolai's goggles, it is definitely a reference to Takeo's katana, but I don't think it's one for one exactly the same. But if you disagree, let me know. Now, the one clothing item that we can say with 100% certainty is exactly from a previous zombies map is the gas mask. This gas mask is one-to-one the identical same gas mask that you'll find in Zetsubo no Shima. We have only ever seen that gas mask in that map. It's never returned since. Now, Treyarch being Treyarch would not include this specific gas mask model unless there was an explanation behind it. But for all we know, Samantha could have genuinely visited Zetsubo no Shima whilst in the Dark Aether. Now, stick with me here. We've got a few more items to go. The first being Samantha's red scarf. Now, this is obviously synonymous with Dr. Monty, and he'd usually symbolize his omnipresence by a red scarf being in certain maps, like Origins. Looking at this scarf in more detail, it isn't quite the same one that Dr. Monty wore, so I'd definitely say it's a reference, but not his direct scarf. Interestingly enough, it also looks very similar to the scarf that Scarlet wears in the Chaos story. However, this is the Dark Aether story we're dealing with, and the Chaos story is not connected to it in any way. Now, the next detail is a certain watch bracelet that Samantha is wearing that is incredibly hard to see in the cutscene, so this up-close render of this watch is incredibly interesting. Looking closer at the watch face, you can see that it is a 24-hour clock, with 1 to 12 on the outside and 12 to 24 on the inside. Now, everyone's been comparing this wristwatch to Dempsey's wristwatch. As expected, it's not the same watch. Dempsey's watch is considerably bigger than what Samantha's wearing, but it's interesting that Samantha is wearing this because in the Dark Aether, I'm sure you don't have a concept of time. What's also really interesting is the fact that she has what looks like chalk or paint smears on her arm in 3 specific lines, which also match with the 3 deep cuts that she has on the left side of her face now. Now, I know this video is getting quite long, but please pay attention here because we're about to jump into details you will never have noticed in the cutscene. Aside from the physical items she's wearing, we gotta talk about her eyes. The eye colors in zombies have always been important, but in this case, even more so because Samantha's eyes are literally the exact same texture as the dark ether swirling galaxy textures that you see on the arrows around the map leading you to power. The swirling starry galaxies of the dark ether are in her eyes. I'm telling you, with her dark ether experience, it has awoken childhood connection that she had to the dark ether. Some of the behaviors she experienced whilst in the dark ether are really interesting and we'll get onto later. Some other new details is that one of her shoulder pads contains this unique sigil of a skull, and Treyarch have clearly put this on here for a reason. At first, you just dismiss this to be a human skull, and it could just be a human skull, but it's the weird flicked edges that you see on the corners under the eyes, which just seem a little strange to me. Did Samantha become part of a weird secret cult in the dark ether? We really don't know because we've never seen this before. It would have been awesome if this is a reference to the skull of Nan Supwave from Zetsubou no Shima, but it just doesn't look the same to me. Now, the next super interesting secret detail is Samantha has a load of different items that all have the number 5 on them. Starting with the shawl on her back, you can see it's ripped, but you can see the number 5 written there. There's also a pocket which has the number 05 on it. And finally, she's wielding a magazine pouch, which also has the Roman numeral for 5V written on it. I have no clue what this could mean, but if you guys have any ideas, please let me know down below. Now, she also has a few other weird secret items that are unexplained. The first is this weird grenade, and visually the only text you can make out of it is the writing ignite, which could mean that this is a flare that she's got in her pocket. The most peculiar of all is in one of her pockets, she has this very strange light vial thing, which has the threading of a light bulb at the top. And it has a very unique decal label, which Treyarch specifically went through the effort to put on this thing. In-game, you'll never see it. It says 254 60 90 and then some Russian text, which when I've tried to translate it says the lighting is enhanced distances. If anyone watching this is fluent in Russian and can understand what this decal says, please leave a comment down below. Rounding up all of these items that we've looked at, the references to Primis, the references to Dr. Monty, the Zetsubou no Shima gas mask, how has she got all of these items? Well, we still don't really understand much about the dark ether and how it works, and clearly time works very differently in the dark ether to how it works in our normal reality, as Samantha, walking out of that portal, did not know how long she was trapped in the dark ether for. Not only that, but when we go to the dark ether in FIREBASE through the bunny Easter egg, we're experiencing what seems to be like a figment of Samantha's memory and imagination, where as a child this bunny was synonymous to her. So it's fair to assume that depending on the person, dark ether can literally mold its experience to incorporate a blend of nightmares and memories, physical amalgamations depending on the person. And from the prior zombie storyline, the Ether story, Samantha has always had a deep intrinsic connection to the dark ether ever since she was a child. And perhaps the dark ether remembers everything that happened when she was a child in that previous story, hence why the dark ether has granted her all of these items that are references from the previous story. The dark ether, Samantha even references having nightmares similar to what she had as a child, which were drawn as images in her bedroom in Der Eisendrache.
Monsters are real. I used to have nightmares about them, and I told myself I was being foolish. I was wrong. I'm not scared. I have overcome much worse things. I will take their power from them by using it. Now, I hide in shadows, like they did when I was a child. I found shelter. I found food. I do what I need to in order to survive. Tomorrow will be a better day. I will choose to believe that.
It is incredible to see how her story has unfolded with this map, because despite everything she's faced, she's shown such internal strength, but you can also hear just how sad she is. She questions if she's even a good soul or not after the actions of killing several Omega soldiers and waking up after blacking out with no idea where she's been or what she's done, but with a knife in her hand. You hear some truly harrowing laughter where Samantha is being tortured by Dr. Peck. Whilst being literally tortured, she is howling with laughter in an eerily similar fashion to that of the Joker from The Dark Knight. Despite everything that's being thrown at Samantha in this experience with Firebase C, she's come out of that Dark Aether portal a different, much more confident person. Her experience in the Dark Aether had made her question everything about her person, realizing that the fact that she is alone, but she's fine with it. She's a lost soul, bearing all of the weight and tragedy that occurred with her during her childhood. And it is all absolutely beautifully done. And I, for one, am incredibly excited to see where the story progresses with the second DLC. We hear exactly what Samantha explains to Weaver about and what more we learn. And of course, hear Samantha explain where the heck she got all of these different artifacts and different clothing items. I really hope you enjoyed this deep dive look into Samantha Maxis in the Firebase C ending. If you did enjoy at any point, a like would be super appreciated. It really helps this video out in the YouTube algorithm, as I know so many people are curious on the specifics of her clothing in relation to Primis. If you want to see more videos like this, then by all means, please subscribe to the channel right now with the bell ticked. On your screen in just a few moments is a video. If you click, I'll see you over there in just a few moments. If you love zombie posters, I have an incredible Cold War Zombies poster that's just launched that you can grab via the link in the description. It is a full-on movie-sized poster, double-ended, with Park in D Machina and Samantha Maxis in the Dark Aether. You can have it up whichever way you want. It looks fantastic. If you want to grab one, there is a link in the description, along with my Cold War Zombies perk poster pack that now contains the Tombstone perk as well. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.